So we got the signature of the superintendent of Talladega Schools on what say Dr. Lee said so. No, it's good. So it could be any kind of combination of things, and sometimes, and most of the time, it's the compounded of multiple things, right? So physical neglect, sexual abuse, physical abuse, displacement, I mean, how many homeless kids we got, or kids living in cars or whatever. Racism, emotional neglect, poverty, a parent with mental illness, a parent that's incarcerated, the ACEs, the whole thing. All right, Derek, Mr. Derek. So the root cause directs the solve. So when Cedric was given his scenario about working with the youth earlier, and I talked about the root, you have to get, if you're going to have a solution that works, you're going to have to design for the root. We're not chasing. Again, programs would be, like we said, we can't fix a system by creating a new program. Programs are symptom drive. We're chasing symptoms that way. We're not addressing anything, and we're not solving anything. So unaddressed trauma in a student, this is reiterating what I said earlier, multiplied across millions, impacts the entire education system. Left unaddressed, into adulthood impacts well-being and prosperity. Inside the school, this looks like the fragmented, incongruent delivery of services. So now at the school level, so from what we're doing, and I'll maybe mention this some, but what we're trying to create with the universal equity pedagogy is then you're going to have to create those paths of coherence at the school level. You know what I mean? You can't have front office creating all kind of chaos where the educators coming to get resourced to go back to the classroom. You're going to have to make that foundation sound and solid at the school level, at the administrative level, so that it feeds into the classroom. So I mentioned, so I've architected what I call the universal equity pedagogy. So these are what's up here is the foundational understandings of said pedagogy. So children and students are the centerpiece of learning and the work of transformative education. So the children should be the curriculum guide. We're not trying to agenda-driven yakety-yak. It's not, So, and you may have things already, some good things in place, and you're just having to kind of, change your. Learning is a relationally mediated activity. So if you adhere to universal equity pedagogy, then you're just agreeing with these are foundational understandings. Trauma is a universal phenomenon. The baby. Trauma's impact has been systemically immersed in society. Persons with unaddressed and unresolved trauma are not able to or find it difficult to act or behave in equitable ways. So equity is a function of human behavior. We're talking equity, but if I'm all jacked up, chances are I'm not going to be able to act equitable towards you, right? And so we get mad about that, but we don't go solve the problem. Crazy making. Unaddressed trauma and its impact and influence are impediments to learning and development. Labeling of any kind is premature when the work of eliminating barriers to a student's true giftings and abilities has not been addressed and fully exhausted. We talked about in the first session about misdiagnosis. This is where I came in, my, aha moment or epiphany is when I saw that kids were being misdiagnosed with learning disabilities who in fact were manifesting symptoms of trauma, right? And so if you don't do the due diligence, again, I gave you the example of you have bronchitis and you get diagnosed with lung cancer. Not exactly, not what we want happening. But because we don't see it, it's not like you're walking around with a broken arm. You can't see it, so it's internalized. A lot of it's internalized, although it becomes external. Trauma is not a respecter of culture, race, or socioeconomic status. Affluency can serve as a mitigator and a mediator working together to hide the appearance of trauma's impact. So don't be fooled. Trauma sits in high places with rich people. They just have stuff. They can just mask it better than some of us, right? Poverty, however, on the other hand, can serve as an exacerbator of trauma's impact. So the stress level that puts on any kind of already existing circumstances is going to make it more yeah, it's more stressful, more toxic, etc. Emotional, behavioral, social, and mental influences from unaddressed trauma are disproportionately represented in black and brown children. Emotional, behavioral, social, and mental influences from unaddressed trauma are compounded in communities that are impoverished regardless of race. So these are the foundational, so this is just the, again, we say we understand this. This is our premise that we're going to operate from if we're operating inside the mindset, if you will, of this pedagogy. And so whether it's at Reformation Academy or a school in Talladega City or wherever, or Talladega High, Carol, school culture is the environment where this has to start and take place. So an environment conducive to growth and learning determined by commitment and adherence to vision, mission, and core values, which impacts people, practices, processes, products, and principles. So because, again, the impact of trauma is fragmented and siloed. We do everything siloed, or what, so, which doesn't lend itself to, enforcing vision and building school culture that's healthy. So we have to find ways, and that's part of the platform that we're putting together. Is the first thing we do is we have this diagnostic tool that schools can take based on 5 key drivers that help you, assess where you are in relationship to how you're doing this, So the first key driver is integrated. Is everything integrated across all the parts? You know what I mean? It's not, again, we're addressing the fragmented and siloed services and delivery. Number 2 is whole child. So do we have everything going on for the whole of the child? Mental, social, emotional, cognitive, mental, all those things. If you're doing all those things right, cognitive, emotional, social, and physical, you are addressing the mental. Those things make up the mental well-being, right? And then multi-generational. We've talked a lot about parents here today, and so in an environment where you're about doing something differently, doing the reset, then parents reaching back into the home is a non-negotiable. So it's multi-generational. You create environments that are multi-generational. So you're reaching back into the home. I tell people, if I was an administrator at a school, I would hang out a sign that said, if your child goes to school here, so do you. No. This is, so again, Darius and Carol talking about parents taking responsibility. You shouldn't have to, there's something about breaking down that blind spot of them thinking they can just drop off and they've abdicated their responsibility. Although, again, in fairness, this is, again, this 50-year thing that's been going on where they've been trained, just hand them over and we'll do with what we will. So, yeah. All right, Derek. And then I said to make sure to dot all your I's. So, again, integration. Integration is the key point because, again, there is no human flourishing without integration. You're wanting the parts to come together. We're wanting to heal the parts. We're wanting to address the parts. We're wanting to serve the different parts that are, all out there. instead of, you would think if we're about learning and development, we're doing this. Here's somebody's communicating, and we know when Johnny gets to 12th grade, well, he's got this whole portfolio. I mean, it's amazing. He's got all this stuff. We figured out what he loves, what his passions are, what his weaknesses are, whatever. So that's another example of integration. You're pushing all this information forward. If he goes to another school, and I know there's some, people try to do some things like that, but as a system, we're talking about changing the system, resetting the system. That idea needs to be built into the system. Also, that's another example of integration. So, again, I mean, even the idea of multi-generational is connected to integration. You're reaching back into the home. You're saying you're part of this. I don't know if you can say if you're not part of this, then you might want to find another school. But anyway, so that kind of thing. So you're trying to find all the connect points. Just like Darius is father, Darius is a principal, Darius is city council person. All this stuff, you know what I mean? All these parts are connected to each other, So, did that answer it or no? Sort of, kind of. Go back, sir. Only got one done, Derek. Come on, man. Oh my gosh. Well, but that's connected. They're all connected. Here's, I said, dot your I, all your I's, right? Implementation. You see all the I's. I have an issue with, or an affinity to alliterations, I should say. So I'm always doing that. So implementation is about fully executing and embedding the practices and the processes into the delivery of services. That's what we were saying. Interrelationships takes note of the interrelated parts. I kind of spoke to this already. So, right, interdependencies amongst the whole and how they work together to strengthen and leverage outcomes. So for everybody, because actually then the phys ed teacher, the social studies teacher, the school counselor, the principal, those people make up Johnny's support team. It's all about Johnny. These teachers that go to school, I hear these stories, the teachers want to get moved to another grade because they can't get along with another teacher. What in the heck? This is not about you. You know what I mean? I don't understand. This is just bizarre. Individualization, say that 5 times, is considered of a student's learning story. I call it learning story, including their strengths, gifts, and talents, using them to help contextualize learning. So if I have no context for what you're telling me, then it's probably not going to land or it's not going to stick. So in this new way, in the reset, Dr. Ivy says, the student is the curriculum guide. And when you come in, I'm trying to find out about your cognitive challenges, your family background, your strength at whatever level it's appropriate, your strengths, your weaknesses. And then I can look at, as a part of the support team, I'm looking at all these things about Johnny. And then I know, when the technology gets there, it's going to be a lot, not as much of a heavy lift. Because we're at the place now with technology, we can do a lot of amazing things. So, but so we're making it. And how does Johnny feel when he said, I got all these people here trying to, make this work for me? So context is a big deal. I wouldn't go shopping at the big and tall store. It wouldn't work for me. Intentionality is about the effort put forth to articulate your why. So if we're all about, if we've already said, I believe children are the centerpiece and the key to transformative education, then, I'm all about Johnny. And so we're being intentional about that. I mean, we're going to be perfect off the bat, you know what I mean? But, we're intentional about engaging those things and putting those different strategies and processes in place.
Okay for a parent to ask their teacher
But if you had a leader that bought into this idea, right, and then it's almost like translation. So you could say the teacher could say, "This is what you um, as a support person on Johnny's team. I'm just making this up as I talk. This is what you can expect from me this year, or whatever, and that could be, some of the strategic supports, whatever it is, and how you're going to try to help him. This thing translated into home, those same things sound like this. For the counselor, all these things in the classroom sound like, and then you translate it into counselor language. In the front office, because if the teacher is the first responder, then then we're all trying to help that person too. So we're kind of, but it's all for the purpose of Johnny. Yeah, exactly. And you could incentivize it. I mean, I don't know about paying somebody $100 to come to IEP meeting, but you know what I'm saying? So it could be just like, I don't know. Or if you partner with, because part of my thought is, if we're reaching back, if it's one of the key drivers is multi-generational, and we're reaching back into the home, trying to equip, empower, then we're partnering with, say, community colleges or whatever to say, and maybe they have a certificate program that they're willing to co-op for the parents. And so, so if you engage, you're going to do because you're expected to be engaged because your child goes to school here, and so do you. But incentivize, like you've been scholarshiped in to this certificate program, so you're kind of coming around the back door to incentivize, but also empower, so they start having a new thought about a thing. You know what I mean? suspicion of mental illness or mommy, just it. We're going to set something off. What is it?
Bonk, like EMA, emergency life.
Oh, okay. Something we set off. I would have set off something. So NAMI said that 50% of the diagnosis for mental health issues is done by the time a child is 14 years old. A person is 14 years old. Is that sick or what? That is not. So, again, it's like 85%.
Are there things that a parent or educator can look for so that they can almost determine if it's trauma opposed to just looking to diagnose something like a cognitive issue?
Well, yeah.
That
Well,
makes
there's
sense.
many symptoms. So yeah, there's a whole list of different things, whatever. So again, you know too, trauma's a soul issue, right? So you know if like so if poverty in my legislation, I say if poverty is the number one indicator of trauma, right? Then if you have a child that's in poverty, you know comes from an impoverished background, you suspect them of having a learning disability because we know that poverty is the number one indicator of trauma. Then you say, I'm out. You don't go ahead and go down the LD track. You exhaust everything you have available to you. Available. You didn't have to build into the question. Right? But you say, hold up. You have a designated legislation for that. You can say, you have a designated amount of time. Actually, we had a legislator in Tennessee in 22 that was going to introduce a piece of legislation and got pushback from legislative council saying this should have passed several times. Now look at it. Well, federal funding. I would say we're shutting down the whole thing. So it's great. But yeah, so it's all about all about the money.
Does everybody understand that? Yeah, I think it's because in our community, so many of our children have been diagnosed or labeled, right, without even the consideration that some form of trauma, just from, and we not even knowing, it may not even be anything the adult necessarily did. It's just growing up in a poverty type situation could be the reason why they're not developing like they should. I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm thinking about in my mind. There's a difference between a child that stays with a parent until they're 5, go to school. Then they go to daycare, right? And they learning how to read, write, spell colors. That child will be more prepared to go to school. But if a parent kept their child and they couldn't afford it, kept them in the house, they didn't get any development. When they get to kindergarten, because they're behind, the school is going to say that they're LD. They have a learning disability. So now they're going to get an IEP, and then they're going to be being pulled and not being helped. And now they're going to develop a learning disability as a result of that misdiagnosis. Does that make sense? Like it could just be you didn't have the resources to help them get what they need, or they just might have needed some tutor, or maybe like now you tread like with Kaylin. Kaylin, my mom kept Kaylin for a while, so she didn't start talk pretty decent. She was older, so she had to receive speech service for a while. But they wanted to label her, and we're like, no, my baby ain't, she ain't that type of special. She's special, but not that type, right? And so at some point, we maybe, even if you're talking to parents, I'm saying, tell them to pause because it could be something from a traumatic growing up. And it's not saying trauma like they've been touched, because that's not all the trauma. Sometimes trauma is growing up in an environment that you don't have what everybody else got, right? resources and etc. So I think a lot of our misdiagnosis, what we see from our community, right, are a lot of children who have plans in school that's making them more systemically dependent on a system than they really are more apt to have an environment where they can learn and outgrow the deficiencies that they have. identify the third graders that's on the trail being those 14-year-olds. And maybe we can start trying to break it by building relational capacity with the younger kids so that they don't grow to become those kids. You know what I'm saying?
Or find those organizations that are already serving those young people in some capacity, and get behind it. And the training, offer training,
Oh, we see.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
come to Reformation first day, they eat, oatmeal pies. Like, what's that? You get an oatmeal pie, eat the whole box. It's the first time ever experiencing any of it. And so we're sitting in that moment like, how you, how you never had Debbie cake? But in talking to him and talking to his mom, he's always only loved videography and editing, something with computers. Like, he can do math, he can do reading, he don't care about it. But if you say some technology-wise, if you say some regarding video editing, so now when we have an assignment, when he has to write a paper, you write it on the topic that you love. Because now you're going to see it as more beneficial because it's pushing you on the path. Yeah. And so his whole little ILP, individualized learning plan, was more geared towards where he was going. She wanted to go in the field there. And so we did socially develop because we accepted his difference and then spoke into his life. Yeah, and we allowed